All right, welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling something absolutely huge. We are going to demystify a 2,400-year-old manual that is, let's be honest, constantly misused, misquoted, and just completely misunderstood in corporate boardrooms all over the world. We're looking at Sun Tzu's The Art of War, specifically those critical first 3 chapters. My goal for us today is to strip away all the ancient metaphors and uncover the raw, unvarnished calculus of survival that this text was actually meant to be.
I mean, we've all heard the quotes, right? You've seen those motivational corporate posters. People absolutely love dropping Sun Tzu quotes to sound ruthless and strategic in pitch decks or meetings. But here's the reality check. 99% of the people who read this ancient masterpiece completely miss the core premise. They think it's a book about how to fight. They think it's this glorious guide to crushing your enemies in combat. It is absolutely not.
Okay, let's really dive into this. People view conflict as this glorious clash of swords, but the brutal reality is much, much colder. The art of war is actually a masterclass on how not to fight. Conflict isn't glorious. It's a harsh, mathematical reality of survival. War, whether we're talking about a fierce battle for market share, a political race, or actual combat on a battlefield, is simply a matter of life and death. It's a road that leads either to safety or to absolute ruin. And if you don't understand the math behind it, you're going to bleed out before you even step onto the field.
So here's your operational manual for today. We're breaking this down into a highly organized 5-step framework. We'll start with the math of survival, then unpack the 5 constant factors, accelerate right into the economics of speed, hit the intellectual core with the art of not fighting, and finally give you your exact execution blueprint.
All right, Section 1, the math of survival.
So, like we just established, any form of conflict is a pathway to either safety or ruin. The stakes are absolute. Because of that, Sun Tzu demands that you calculate your position before you make a single move. Action without calculation? That's just a guaranteed path to failure. Which brings us directly to Section 2, the 5 constant factors.
Now, I have to give you a crucial warning right up front. If you ignore even one of these 5 factors, you are no longer strategizing. You are literally just gambling with your survival. It's fascinating how perfectly these abstract ancient concepts translate into our modern reality. Sun Tzu's first factor is the moral law. Well, today that's just alignment. Are your people actually in complete accord with your vision, or are they just sitting around waiting for a better paycheck? Next up, heaven and earth. That translates to your market timing and terrain. Heaven represents uncontrollable variables, like the economic climate, while earth is the distances, dangers, and specific obstacles in your industry. Then there's the commander, which is simply character. Do you have wisdom, courage, strictness? And finally, method and discipline. That's your operations and capital efficiency. How's your hierarchy structured? How tightly are you controlling that burn rate?
Sun Tzu says, the general who loses a battle makes but few calculations beforehand. Let's actually apply this. Think about a highly funded startup that just spectacularly collapsed. Why did they fail? I promise you, it wasn't just bad luck. If we run the calculations, we usually find their moral law, their company culture, was fractured from day one. Or maybe they misread heaven and entered the market at completely the wrong time. Or they lacked discipline and just torched all their capital. War is fundamentally a math problem, guys. If you lose, it's because your calculations were wrong.
Moving right along to Section 3, the economics of speed.
We're shifting gears now because we really need to talk about urgency. In Chapter 2, Sun Tzu introduces a very harsh, uncomfortable reality. Your most dangerous enemy is actually not your competitor. It's time. 100,000. He uses the example of raising an army of 100,000 men just to dramatize the staggering, almost unfathomable cost of conflict. Transporting, feeding, and paying an army that massive drains a nation's wealth overnight. Today, sure, you don't have 100,000 soldiers, but you do have a massive capital burn rate, payroll, server costs, and the heavily taxed mental bandwidth of your team. The cost of simply existing in a state of conflict is enormous.
Think of a prolonged campaign like a ticking clock of failure. Tick, tick, tick. As time elapses, your treasure is spent. That's your capital vanishing. Your ardor is dampened. That's your team's morale and energy completely crashing. Your weapons are dulled. Your competitive edge is eroding. Endless meetings, delayed product launches, dragged out negotiations, they literally drain your substance. And when you are finally drained, a third competitor will inevitably spring up out of nowhere and wipe you both out. Time is actively killing you.
So, the takeaway here is crucial. You have to strike hard and fast. In any conflict, let your great object be victory itself, not lengthy, drawn-out campaigns. Because the longer you fight for a single inch of market share, the weaker you become. There is absolutely zero instance in history of a country benefiting from prolonged warfare. Cleverness has simply never been associated with long delays.
Which brings us to the intellectual climax, Section 4, the art of not fighting.
In Chapter 3, we get the ultimate paradox of war. Fighting and conquering in all your battles is actually not supreme excellence. Supreme excellence is breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting at all, period. And to understand how to win without fighting, we first have to look at the absolute worst possible strategy you could ever deploy: attacking a walled city. In modern terms, a walled city is your competitor's strongest, most entrenched, most heavily defended product or market. Sun Tzu warns that if you launch your team into a head-on assault against an entrenched enemy, swarming them like ants, you're going to lose a third of your force and gain absolutely nothing. Finding them where they are strongest is expensive, it's incredibly risky, and it is highly destructive. So we have to stop besieging walls. You must outmaneuver. The highest form of leadership is to balk the enemy's plans. You do this by anticipating their moves and neutralizing them before they even materialize. Cut off their supply chains, poach their absolute top talent. Or even better, innovate so drastically that you make their core product completely obsolete. The skillful leader captures cities without ever laying siege to them.
And finally, Section 5, your execution blueprint.
Look, theory means nothing if you don't execute. Let's bring things back down to earth here, because I want to give you an immediately applicable 3-step checklist. Step 1, run the 5 calculations. Before you launch your next major project, literally write down your alignment, your timing, the obstacles, any leadership gaps, and operational bottlenecks. If you're weak in more than 2 of these areas, that's a huge red flag. Abort the launch. Step 2, kill the protracted war. Do an audit of your life right now for lingering conflicts. Are you stuck in a toxic lawsuit or some endless product development cycle? Cut your losses or finish it right now. Step 3, stop besieging walls. Look at where you're spending the most energy with the least return. Stop attacking entrenched competitors head-on, pivot, and find that undefended market space.
Let's wrap up with this profound and honestly kind of chilling thought from Sun Tzu. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. Ignorance of your own mechanics, your own math, and your own weaknesses is the true first step toward ruin. So I want to leave you with this final question. When you look at the battles you're currently fighting in your career or in your business, have you actually done the math, or are you just blindly hoping to survive the war?